Morning everyone, hope you're all okay. We're back with Rat Burger and we're on chapter 5 and chapter 6 today. So chapter 5 is called Droppings and chapter 6 is called Rat-a-tat-tat. Let's get cracking with chapter 5. Here we go. Zoe trudged even more reluctantly than usual to school the next morning. Gingernut was dead, and with that her dreams had died too. As Zoe walked out of the estate, Tina flobbed on the little girl's head as she always did. As she was wiping the flob off her frizzy hair with a page ripped from one of her exercise books, Zoe saw Dad crouched over by the tiniest patch of grass. He appeared to be digging with his hands. He turned around quickly as if in shock. Oh, hello, my love. What are you doing? Said Zoe. She leaned over him to see what he was up to and saw that the little package containing Gingernut was laid on the ground next to a small mound of earth. Don't tell your mum. Step-mum? Don't tell your step-mum, but I fished the little fella out the bin. Oh, Dad. Sheila's still asleep, snoring away. I don't think she heard anything. Gingernut meant so much to you, I just wanted to give him, a proper burial. Zoe smiled for a moment, but somehow she found herself crying too. Oh, Dad, thank you so much. No word of this to her, though, or she'll murder me. Of course not. Zoe knelt down beside him, picked up the little package and lowered Gingernut into the small hole her father had dug. I even got one of those things for a headstone, one of these old lolly sticks from the factory. Zoe took out her chewed biro from her pocket and scribbled Gingernut on the stick, though there wasn't really room for the T, so it just read Gingernut. Dad filled the hole and they stood back and looked at the little grave. Thanks, Dad, you're the best. Now Dad was crying. What's the matter? Asked Zoe. I'm not the best. I'm so sorry, Zoe, but I will get another job one day. I know I will. Dad, a job doesn't matter. I just want you to be happy. I don't want you to see me like this. Dad started walking away. Zoe pulled on his arm, but he shook it out of her grasp and walked off back to the tower block. Come and meet me at the school gates later, Dad. We can go to the park and you can put me on your shoulders. I used to love that. It don't cost a thing. Sorry, I'll be in the pub. Have a good day at school, he shouted without looking back. He was hiding his sadness from his daughter, like he always did. Zoe could feel her stomach screaming in hunger. There had been no dinner last night, as Sheila had spent all the benefit money on fags, and there was no food in the house. Zoe hadn't eaten for a long time, so she stopped off at Raj's newsagent's. All the kids from school went to the shop before or after school. As Zoe never received pocket money, she would only come into the shop and gaze longingly at the sweets. Being exceptionally kind-hearted, Raj often took pity on the girl and gave her free ones. But only the out-of-date ones or those with a hint of mould. But she was still grateful. Sometimes she would be allowed a quick suck on a mint before Raj asked her to put it back in the packet to sell to another customer. But this morning Zoe was especially hungry, so was hoping Raj would help. Ting! Went the bell as the door opened. Ah, Miss Zoe, my favourite customer. Raj was a big, jolly man who always had a smile on his face, even if he told him his shop was on fire. Hello, Raj, said Zoe sheepishly. I don't have any money again today, I'm afraid. Not a penny? Nothing, sorry. Oh dear, but you do look hungry. A quick nibble on one of these chocolate bars, perhaps? He picked up a bar and unwrapped it for her. Just try and eat round the edges, please. Then I can put the wrapper back on it and put it back on sale. The next customer will never know. Zoe nibbled greedily on the chocolate bar, her front teeth munching off the edges like a little rodent. You look very sad, child, said Raj. He was always good at spotting when things were wrong and could be a lot more caring than some parents or teachers. Have you been crying? Zoe looked up from her nibbling for a moment, her eyes still stung with tears. No, I'm fine, Raj. Just hungry. No, Miss Zoe, I can see something is wrong. He leaned on the counter and smiled supportively at her. Zoe took a deep breath. My hamster died. Oh, Miss Zoe, I am so sorry. Thank you. You poor thing. A few years ago I had a pet tadpole and it died, so I know how you feel. Zoe looked surprised. A pet tadpole? She had never heard of anyone having one as a pet. Yes, I called him Poppadom. One night I left him swimming around in his little fishbowl, and when I woke up in the morning there was a naughty frog there. He must have eaten Poppadom. Zoe couldn't quite believe what she was hearing. Raj! Yes? The newsagent wiped a tear from his eye with the sleeve of his cardigan. Sorry, I always get quite emotional when I think about Poppadom. Raj, tadpoles turn into frogs. Don't be stupid, child. They do, so that frog was Poppadom. I know you're just making me feel better, but I know it's not true. Now, tell me about your hamster. He was so special. I trained him to break dance. Wow! What was his name? Gingernut, said Zoe sadly. My dream that was one day he would be on the TV. Raj thought for a moment and then looked Zoe straight in the eye. You must never give up on your dreams, young lady. But Gingernut is dead. But your dream doesn't need to die. Dreams never die. If you train a hamster to break dance, Miss Zoe, just imagine what you could do. I suppose. Raj looked at his watch. But as much as I would like to, we can't stand here chatting all day. No. Zoe loved Raj, even if he didn't know a tadpole turned into a frog, and never wanted to leave his messy little shop. You'd better be off to school now, young lady. You don't want to be late. I suppose so, mumbled Zoe. Sometimes she wondered why she just didn't bunk off like so many others. Raj beckoned with his big hands. Now, Miss Zoe, give me the chocolate bar, please, so I can put it back on sale. Zoe looked in her hands. It had gone. She was so hungry she devoured every last morsel, save for one last tiny little square. I'm sorry, Raj. I didn't mean to. Really, I didn't. I know, said the kindly man. Just put it back in the wrapper. I can sell it as a special diet chocolate for someone fat like me. Good idea, said the little girl. So we went over to the door, turned around to face the newsagent. Thank you, by the way, not just for the chocolate, but for the advice. Both are free of charge for you at any time, Miss Zoe. Now run along. Raj's words went round and round in Zoe's mind all day at school, but when she returned home to the flat, she felt the same sense of absence. Gingernut was gone. Forever. Days went by, then weeks, then months. She could never forget about Gingernut. He was such a special little hamster, and he brought her so much joy in a world of pain. From the moment he died, Zoe felt as if she was walking through a storm. Very slowly, as the days and weeks passed, the rain became a little lighter, though the sun had still not shone. Until one night, months later, when something completely unexpected happened. Zoe was lying in bed after another insufferable day at school at the hands of the bullies, and the dreaded Tina Trots in particular. There was shouting from next door as usual. Then, out of a brief moment of quiet in the night, came a tiny sound. It was soft at first. Then it became louder and louder. It sounded like nibbling. Am I dreaming, thought Zoe. Am I having one of those strange dreams that I'm lying in bed awake? She opened her eyes. No, she wasn't dreaming. Something small was moving in her bedroom. For a mad moment, Zoe wondered if it could be the ghost of Gingernut. Lately, she'd found a couple of what seemed like droppings in her room. No, don't be crazy, she told herself. Must be a funny-shaped clump of dust, that's all. At first, all she could see was a tiny shadow shape in the corner by the door. She tiptoed out of bed to have a closer look. It was little and dirty and a tad smelly. The dusty floorboards creaked a little under her weight. The tiny thing turned around. It was a rat. There he is. Chapter 6, Rat-a-tat-tat. When you think of the word rat, what is the next thing that comes into your head? Rat. Vermin. Rat. Sewer. Rat. Disease. Rat. Bite. Rat plague. Rat catcher. Rat-a-tat-tat. Rats are the most unloving things on this planet. Loved things. Kittens, puppies, bunnies, hamsters, gerbils, guinea pigs, baby elephants, koala bears, piglets, penguins, butterflies. Unloved. Slugs, spiders, stinging nettles, wasps, worms, jellyfish, farts, Piers Morgan, rats. There you go, there's all the unloved things. However, what if I told you that what Zoe had found in her room that night was a baby rat? Yes, this was the cutest, sweetest little baby rat you can imagine, and it was crouching in the corner of her room, nibbling on one of her dirty, hole-ridden socks. With a tiny pink twitching nose, furry ears and huge, deep, hopeful eyes, this was a rat that could win first prize in a vermin beauty pageant. This explained the mysterious droppings that Zoe had recently found in her room. It must have been this little mite. Well, it certainly wasn't me. Zoe had always thought she would be terrified if she ever saw a rat. Her stepmother even kept rat poison in the kitchen, as there was always talk of an infestation in the crumbling block of flats. However, this rat didn't seem terrifying. In fact, if anything, the rat appeared to be terrified of Zoe. When the floorboard creaked as she approached, it skirted the wall and hid under the bed. "Don't be scared of me, little one," whispered Zoe. Slowly she put her hand under the bed to try and stroke the rat. It shivered in fear at first, its fur standing up on end. "Shh, shh," said Zoe comfortingly. Little by little the rat made its way through the garden of dust and dirt under Zoe's creaky little bed and approached her hand. It sniffed her fingers before licking one. Then another. Sheila was too idle to cook, and Zoe was so starving she'd stolen a bag of her stepmother's dreaded prawn cocktail crisps for her dinner. The rat must have been able to smell them on her fingers, and despite Zoe's grave misgivings about the snack, which bore no relation to prawns or indeed cocktails, the rat didn't seem to mind. Zoe let out a little giggle. The nibbling tickled her. She lifted her hand to stroke the rat, and it ducked underneath and raced to the far corner of the room. "Shh, shh, come on. I only want to give you a stroke," implored Zoe. The rat peeked at her with uncertainty, before tentatively, paw by paw, making its way over to her hand. She brushed its fur with her little finger as lightly as she could. The fur was a lot softer than she imagined. Not as soft as ginger nuts, nothing was, but surprisingly soft nonetheless. One by one, Zoe's fingers lowered, and soon she was stroking the top of the rat's head. Zoe let her fingers trickle down its neck and back. The rat arched its back to meet her hand. Most likely it had never been shown so much tenderness before, certainly not by a human. Not only was there enough rat poison in the world to kill every rat 10 times over, but when people saw a rat, they would generally either scream or reach for the broom to whack it. Looking at this little tiddler now, though, it was hard for Zoe to understand why anyone would ever want to harm it. Suddenly, the rat's ears shot up and Zoe quickly turned her head. Her parents' bedroom door was opening, and she could hear her stepmother thundering along the hallway, huffing with each step. Hurriedly, Zoe snatched up the rat, cupped it in her hands and jumped back into bed. Sheila would go crazy if she knew her stepdaughter was in bed cuddling a rodent. Zoe took the duvet between her teeth and hid it under the covers. She waited and listened. The bathroom door creaked open and closed, and Zoe could hear the muffled sound of her stepmother thudding down on the cracked toilet seat. Zoe sighed and opened her hands. The baby rat was safe. For now. She let the little rodent scamper over her hands and onto her torn pyjama top. Kiss, 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 kiss. She made little kissing noises, just like the ones she used to do with Ginger Nut. And just like the hamster used to do, the rat approached her face. Zoe planted a little kiss on its nose. She pushed a dent in her pillow next to her head and gently laid the rat down into it. It fitted perfectly, and soon she could hear it snoring very quietly next to her. If you have ever heard a rat snoring before, if you have never heard a rat snoring before, this is what it sounds like. Can you see all the Now, how on earth am I going to keep this secret? Zoe whispered. Happier chapters today. So Zoe now has a pet rat, and she's got to try and keep it secret, especially from her stepmother. I don't think Dad would mind so much, do you? But I have no idea how she's going to keep it a secret. Oh dear. Right, so tomorrow the chapters are 7 and 8, and chapter 7 is called Animal Smuggling, and chapter 8 is called Bread Sandwich. I hope Zoe gets something to eat tomorrow as well. She's very hungry, isn't she? I don't think I could survive on prawn cocktail crisps. And she might get caught for stealing those, mightn't she? I hope you enjoyed those 2 chapters, and we'll be back tomorrow with some more. Take care now, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.